Yeah, I filled this knot and then I thought I'll have a little poke at that one, and it went just as deep and as big as that one, which surprised me because it felt solid, and it actually comes through at that tiny little spot there. So that's got fully packed with, actually it's walnut dust and epoxy, because once that's smoothed off it looks dark, like the colour of a knot. If I just wet that with a bit of saliva, you see it'll end up looking about the right colour. What I'm doing now is just cleaning up, having a bit of a go with the scraper, just to take out some of these tool marks. Probably dropped £5. Now I'm doing a bit of work with the scraper here, just to take out these tool marks, and it really shows up the grain of the wood nicely. You can really start to see the beauty of the wood. And it does drop you a few pounds. Also very good for rounding the edges. Very satisfying, but a bit rough on the thumbs. I've got a variety of scrapers, just a rectangular one and this teardrop one, which is nice for attacking sort of tight corners. But yeah, you can see that starting to clean up nicely. I've been doing more work on this undulating area. Narrowed the tip a little bit. I'm going to do a horn overlay there. But I want to clean up all these tool marks, back and belly. Try and get an even thickness through all these ripples. It needs some careful, detailed scraping around these undulations. All a bit painstaking. But hopefully it'll look stunning when it's finished. Sometimes it's hard to find which way to scrape, and a nice sharp bit on the edge of your scraper. Plenty of YouTube videos showing you how to do it. Right, I went along the right limb, carefully working this undulation, and I put a tip overlay on there. Put it back on the tiller, and of course, having cleaned it all up, I've taken a couple of pounds off the right limb. This limb looked weak, and it looked like I got a bit of a hinge, and I thought, oh my God, I panicked. But it was late last evening, I thought, step away from the bow. Don't go and overreact and take a load off the left limb. And then I was looking at one of the questions about hinges and the shape in a limb, and I thought, let's look at what's wrong with the tiller with it not even strung. So you can see, we've got this ugly hinge here. Well, of course it's not actually a hinge, it's just a little deflex kink, or more correctly, it's the transition between a very slight reflex there and quite a big reflex there. So looking at that, you'd say, well, that's stiff. It hasn't bent at all. That's weak because it's bending this way, and this is just wibbly wobbly. Similarly, this end, that's much straighter. Looks a little bit weak there. You've got this line of heart sap curving that way, so that's going to pull your eye into thinking it's weak there. So all these areas that look weak or strong, when the bow's at full draw, it should reflect that. This area should always look a little bit stiff because it's starting out looking stiff because of the reflex. That's always going to look a bit weak because you've got this little kink there. Anyhow, I hope that clarifies it, and that's one of the problems of working in actual stave as opposed to something, you know, from machined out laminates all glued up. Right, I've eased off this left limb some more. It seemed stiff here and there. I've got the knock on that end as well and narrowed the tips a bit, taken quite a bit off the belly here, relieved the odd thick spot. Hopefully that should have pulled it all back in line a bit more, because that was, well, you can see it looks better, it was looking weak on the right limb. And if we look at the right limb now, we can see at a casual glance it looks a bit hingy there, but that's just that little dip. And it does look a bit stiff there, but of course that's where it had that reflex. That's looking much more even now. I suppose I need to get the bottle up and pull it to 50 again. There you go. It's funny, when you're making a bow, there's suddenly a point where it sort of transforms from an ugly duckling into a swan, and I think we've just hit that point. It's looking really handsome now. I haven't buffed up the nocks yet, but I've been cleaning up the back and cleaning and tidying and shaping the belly and getting the grip looking nice. It's really a matter of just checking it again on the till. A couple of little tool marks to come out still. See there, just those couple. Scrape them out with a cabinet scraper. A few there. It's difficult to get this really nice and clean because it's quite sort of hard and dense there. But a little bit. I don't do a lot of sanding, but obviously it needs some. Yeah, some tool marks there still. Problem is the yew dust is a bit nasty, upsets me sinuses, so my lungs, makes me wheeze. So I'll put a face mask on. I've got one of those ventilated face masks. I'll put that on when I come to the sanding. But a few tool marks there. Ready to get it back on the tiller and see how far I dare pull it, really. Done a good amount of cleaning up, taking out tool marks, working on it with the scraper. It's probably very close now. My sight's about right, going from the belly there, but of course you lose a bit where the thickness of the grip is. Let's just exercise it and see what it does. I don't know what that creaking was. It's looking quite nice now. I want to give it plenty of exercise. Well, that was 50 at 28. I'll probably take it a little bit further at some point, but that'll do for now. It'd be nice to get a video up. I left it strung for a good few hours yesterday and gave it a fair bit of exercise. Something else I did was to investigate these knots. They went quite deep and this side dug out quite deep. I didn't want to leave a weak point across there that would pinch, so I sort of scraped it all out and filled it with a bit of walnut and epoxy. That was that manky area that I had to work quite early on that dipped in from the side of the bow. So it's virtually all gone, just left a little bit of a mark, which is quite nice, bit of character. That's about it really. The knocks are a sort of compromise. I don't much like a pin knock because it's asking to get damaged, being very narrow. But on the other hand, I didn't really want a wide knock cut in from the side, so I've got a sort of compromise there. I might slim them down a bit, but I don't think a wide tip is a particularly fast bow. But the whole point of this build is to build a bow that doesn't break. Having had 2 go, there we are, that's the top knot. You can see that's where it had that sort of deflex dip. I just flattened it off, and I've got quite a big lump of horn there, just trying to make the shape look a bit better. And you can see most of the heartwood's gone. But yeah, bit of nice cleaning up, sanding. And what I'm doing is where I'm tidying up around growth rings, if there's just a little bit of one ring left, I'll just clean it off and get down to the next one, just to try and extend clean, clear areas of continuous or contiguous ring, if you like. So like that little island there could probably be taken down, but I don't want to overdo it, but it's just, well, that one there perhaps, or that little bit there, it's just the more you take off, the sort of prettier it can end up looking. And like I said, on Osage, the rings, they're like alternate cast iron and chalk. With yew, they're very much more homogeneous, but you do get the much lighter ones. I sort of refer to them as like dried chicken breast meat. They're a little bit crumblier, and they can sort of scrape off a bit, but it won't split along between rings like Osage will, so you don't have to follow a ring. But you can see that's going to be quite a sort of decorative feature. One of the main purposes for doing these videos is so that I can effectively get far enough away from the bow, because in the garage I can't get very far away and it's hard to see the tiller. And on that last video I said the left was still a whisker stiff. Well, I took a still off the video and drew ellipses using paint, and I could see the ellipse for that limb was much bigger than the ellipse for this one. This was bending much tighter. So I've got the scraper, a lot of scraping here and on that last third, and hopefully that will have eased it off a bit now. But it did get to 28 without exploding, and if it got to 28 with the right limb overstressed, then easing off the left will relieve some stress from the right, and it should, you know, it should be a happier bow basically. Now I think that looks better. It's one of these things, it's very subjective, which, like I say, it's why I take the video. I mean, I'm right back by the camera. There we are. That was a good 28. Now I'll tack this onto the end of the other video and hopefully we'll see there's an improvement.